I should have known something was wrong the moment we pulled into the driveway. Maya had gone quiet in that particular way people do when they're wrestling with something bigger than holiday nerves. Her hand was cold in mine, and she kept adjusting the rearview mirror even though the angle was fine. "You okay?" I asked, squeezing her fingers. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just nervous about meeting your family. That's normal, right?" "They're going to love you," I said, and I meant it. 6 months together, and Maya had become the person I thought about first thing in the morning and last thing at night. The person who made me believe in the kind of love I'd always rolled my eyes at when I saw it in movies. I was 28 years old, and for the first time, I could see a future that didn't feel empty. The house looked exactly like it always did at Christmas. White lights wrapped around the porch railings, my mom's wreaths on every window, the smell of cinnamon and pine drifting out even before we opened the door. I grabbed our bags from the trunk, and Maya stood there on the sidewalk staring up at the house like it might swallow her whole. "Come on," I said, laughing. "I promise my family doesn't bite." She followed me up the steps, and I could feel the tension radiating off her. I chalked it up to the usual girlfriend meeting family anxiety. God, I was an idiot. My mom opened the door before I could knock, already pulling me into a hug that smelled like her lavender perfume and the sugar cookies she'd been baking since dawn. "There's my baby. Oh, let me look at you. Have you been eating? You look thin." "Mom, I'm fine," I laughed, stepping back. "This is Maya." My mom turned to her with that warm, encompassing smile she saves for people she's already decided to love. "Maya! Oh, sweetheart, we've heard so much about you. Come in, it's freezing out there." She smiled, but her eyes were darting past my mom into the house, scanning like she was looking for an exit or an enemy. I should have noticed. I should have asked. We stepped into the foyer, and that's when I heard Daniel's voice from the living room. Is that little brother finally gracing us with his presence? My brother appeared in the doorway, grinning, holding a beer. Daniel was 33, still had that easy confidence that made everyone in a room gravitate toward him. He'd always been the golden child, the one who did everything right, or at least made it look that way. Then he saw Maya. I watched his face drain of color, watched the beer bottle slip from his hand and hit the hardwood floor with a crack that sent foam spilling across the wood. My mom gasped and rushed for paper towels, but Daniel didn't move. He just stood there, staring at Maya like she'd risen from the dead. "Daniel?" I said, but my voice sounded far away. Maya had gone rigid beside me. She wasn't looking at Daniel, she was looking at the floor, her jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping in her cheek. "You two know each other?" The words came out of my mouth, but I already knew the answer. I could feel it settling into my chest like concrete. Daniel's eyes finally shifted to me, and there was something in them I'd never seen before. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. "We need to talk, now." My mom was still fussing with the beer spill, oblivious, chattering about how it's fine, accidents happen, but the cheerful energy that had filled the house 30 seconds ago had evaporated. My dad appeared from the kitchen, took one look at the scene, and went very still. "Daniel," Maya said, quietly. It was the first word she had spoken since we'd walked in, and it sounded like an apology and an accusation all at once. "You know what?" Daniel's voice was tight. "I need some air." He turned and walked out the back door, letting it slam behind him. Maya's hand slipped out of mine. I'm going to use the bathroom." She disappeared down the hall before I could stop her. I stood there in the foyer, bags still in my hands, staring at my parents. My mom had stopped cleaning and was looking at my dad with that married people telepathy that doesn't require words. "What the hell just happened?" I said. My dad cleared his throat. "Son, maybe you should go talk to your brother." I found Daniel in the backyard, pacing near the old swing set we'd played on as kids. The winter air bit at my face, but I barely felt it. He turned when he heard me coming, and I saw him steel himself like he was preparing for impact. "How do you know Maya?" I asked. My voice was calmer than I felt. He ran a hand through his hair, the same gesture he'd used since we were kids, when he was trying to figure out how to talk his way out of something. "Jesus, Tyler, this is so fucked up." "Daniel, how do you know her?" He met my eyes then, and I saw the answer before he said it. "She's my ex-wife."
The words didn't make sense at first. They were just sounds, syllables that couldn't possibly mean what they seemed to mean. You're what? We were married for 3 years, divorced 4 years ago. I had no idea you were... How would I have known? You never showed me a picture. You just said you were bringing someone home and... Stop. I held up a hand. My brain was trying to catch up, but everything felt thick and slow. 3 years? You were married? When? Ages 24 to 27. It ended badly. Really badly. He looked at me with something like desperation. Tyler, you have to believe me. If I'd known... She knew. The realization hit me like cold water. She knew who you were. My brother, Daniel. The one I've told her about 100 times. She knew. Daniel's face hardened. Then why the hell didn't she say something? I turned and walked back into the house without answering because I didn't have an answer, and the rage building in my chest needed somewhere to go. I found Maya sitting on the edge of the guest bed where we were supposed to sleep together, her hands folded in her lap like she was praying or preparing for an execution. She looked up when I came in and her eyes were already red. Tyler! Were you ever going to tell me? My voice came out harder than I intended. I didn't know how. She stood up, reaching for me, but I stepped back. I know that sounds insane, but it's true. When we first started dating, you mentioned your brother, but you just called him Dan, and I didn't put it together until you said his full name was Daniel Morrison, and by then we'd already been together for 3 months, and I thought, you thought what? That you'd just show up here and hope he didn't recognize his own ex-wife? No, God, no, I thought... She pressed her hands to her face. I thought I had time to figure out how to tell you. I kept trying to find the right moment, but there's no right way to say, hey, remember your brother? We used to be married. It sounded insane every time I tried to rehearse it. I sat down on the bed, my legs suddenly weak. 3 months, Maya? You knew for 3 months and said nothing? I was scared. Her voice cracked. I was scared you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm someone else. Someone you don't know. I don't know you, I said, and watched her flinch. Apparently, I don't know you at all. She sank down beside me, keeping distance between us like she knew touching me would make it worse. Daniel and I, it was a long time ago. We were different people. I was 21 when we got married, 24 when we were divorced. I'm not that person anymore.
Why did you divorce? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. Because I wasn't enough. Because he had his whole life planned out, and I was struggling to figure out who I was, and he needed someone who already knew. Someone who could keep up with him. Be the right kind of wife for his career, his friends, his family. I tried. God, I tried so hard, but it was never enough. I wanted to put my arm around her. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that we'd figure it out, but I couldn't move. That's his version? That's my version. She looked at me with those brown eyes I'd fallen in love with across a coffee shop counter 6 months ago. Daniel would probably tell you I was unstable, that I had mood swings, that I couldn't handle adult responsibilities, that I sabotaged everything good in my life. And maybe some of that was true, but what he won't tell you is that he was never home, that his idea of a marriage was me sitting pretty in our apartment waiting for him to come home from whatever bar he was at with his work friends, that when I told him I was depressed, he told me to try yoga. I didn't know what to say. This woman sitting beside me, crying quietly in my childhood home, was a stranger, and the person I loved most in the world all at once, and I didn't know how to reconcile those two things. You should have told me, I said finally. I know. The second you knew, you should have told me. I know. She wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. But I was happy with you. For the first time in years, I was actually happy, and I didn't want to ruin it. I didn't want you to see me through the lens of whatever Daniel told me about me. I wanted you to know me, as Maya, not as Daniel's ex-wife who screwed everything up. Too late for that now. She nodded, and we sat there in silence, listening to the muffled sounds of my parents moving around downstairs, probably trying to figure out what to do with a Christmas that had just exploded before it even started. Dinner was a special kind of hell. My mom had gone all out. Roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, the works. And we all sat around the dining table like we were performing a play about a functional family.
Pass the salt. These potatoes are wonderful. Did you see it might snow tomorrow? Daniel sat across from Maya and me, and I watched him watch her when he thought no one was looking. There was history there, written in the set of his jaw and the way her shoulders tensed whenever he spoke. My parents kept up a steady stream of small talk, asking Maya about her job as a graphic designer, complimenting the wine she'd brought, pretending everything was totally normal. I pushed food around my plate and said nothing. Every time Maya's hand brushed mine under the table, I felt my stomach twist. Every time Daniel laughed at one of Dad's jokes, I wanted to throw something. So, Maya, my mom said brightly, Tyler tells us you're from Portland originally. Yes, ma'am. Born and raised. How wonderful. We visited Portland once, didn't we, John? Such a beautiful city. It is, Maya said softly. She was barely eating, just moving food from one side of her plate to another. And you two met at a coffee shop, is that right? Mom continued, bless her heart, trying so hard to salvage this. We did, I forced myself to speak. She spilled coffee on my laptop. Maya managed a small smile. It was entirely his fault. He was blocking the cream station. It was the story we always told, the one that made us both laugh, but tonight it felt hollow. Across the table, Daniel took a long drink of wine. After dinner, I helped my dad with the dishes, while Maya and my mom wrapped leftovers. Daniel had disappeared somewhere, probably hiding. I scrubbed at a roasting pan and tried not to think about anything at all. She seems nice, Dad said carefully. Don't. I'm just saying. Dad, please, I can't do this right now. He nodded and handed me another dish to dry. We worked in silence for a while before he spoke again. Your brother was a mess after that divorce. Worst I've ever seen him.
I looked at him. What are you saying? I'm saying there are always two sides to a story. And I'm saying that sometimes the person you think you know best in the world can surprise you. He paused. Daniel's not perfect, son. None of us are. I didn't sleep that night. Maya and I lay on opposite sides of the guest bed, the space between us feeling wider than the ocean. I could tell by her breathing that she wasn't asleep either, but neither of us spoke. What was there to say? Around 2 a.m, I heard voices outside, low and angry. I slipped out of bed and cracked open the window, and there they were. Daniel and Maya standing by his car in the driveway, their faces lit by the porch light. No right to show up here like this, Daniel was saying. I didn't know he was your brother. Maya's voice was sharp. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I planned this? I don't know what you planned. Maya, I never knew with you. Because you never bothered to ask. She stepped closer to him, and I could see her hands clenched into fists. You want to know why I didn't tell Tyler? Because I knew you'd make me out to be crazy, unstable, the one who ruined everything. That's what you told all your friends, isn't it? That I couldn't handle being married? That I was too emotional, too needy? You cheated on me. Daniel's voice was flat. The words hung in the cold air between them. I kissed someone at a party when I was drunk and miserable, and you've been ignoring me for 6 months. One kiss. One mistake. And you held it over my head for a year before you finally filed for divorce. You want to talk about who ruined what? You checked out of our marriage long before I ever did. I was building a career. You were hiding. From me, from yourself, from the fact that you married someone you didn't actually want to know. You wanted a wife who would smile and nod and never ask you how you were really feeling. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't be that person. And now you're with my brother. Daniel laughed, bitter. That's rich. I love him. Maya's voice broke. I actually love him, Daniel. Not the idea of him, not what he could give me. Him. Tyler. The person he is. Does he know about the drinking, the pills? I stopped breathing. That was when I was with you, Maya said quietly. When I was so unhappy I didn't want to be awake. I've been sober for 3 years, but you wouldn't know that because you've never once checked in to see if I was okay. You're not my responsibility anymore. No, she agreed. I'm not. I'm Tyler's girlfriend. And if you care about your brother at all, you'll let him make his own decisions about me, not based on who I was when I was drowning, but on who I am now. They stood there for another moment, and then Daniel got in his car and drove away, tires crunching on the frozen driveway. I closed the window and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. Maya came back inside a few minutes later, and when she saw me sitting there, she froze. "You heard," she said. "Yeah." She closed the door behind her, leaning against it like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The drinking and the pills, it wasn't an addiction, it was a really dark time. I was on antidepressants, and sometimes I'd mix them with wine, and I know that's stupid, I know it is, but I didn't know how else to cope. And Daniel made it sound like I was some kind of disaster, but really, I was just drowning, and he was never around to notice. "You should have told me," I said again because it was the only thing I could think to say. "I know." She slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor, hugging her knees. "I know I should have, but Tyler, when we met, I was finally okay again. I'd done therapy, I'd gotten sober, I'd figured out how to be a person on my own. And when you looked at me, you didn't see broken Maya, you didn't see Daniel's ex-wife, you just saw me. And I wanted to keep being that person in your eyes for as long as I could." I thought about the past 6 months. Maya making me breakfast on Saturday mornings, dancing in the kitchen to music only she could hear. Maya curled up on my couch reading, absently playing with my hair while I worked on my laptop. Maya laughing at my terrible jokes, calling me out when I was being stubborn, making me feel like I was exactly who I was supposed to be. "I don't know if I can do this," I said. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. I need time to think, to process all of this." "Okay. And I need you to promise me no more secrets, nothing held back. If we're going to have any chance at all, I need the whole truth from here on out." "I promise." She looked at me with those eyes, and I saw the hope flickering there, fragile as a candle flame. "Tyler, I'm not asking you to forget everything. I'm not asking you to pretend this isn't complicated. I'm just asking you to remember who I've been to you these past 6 months. That person is real. She's the real me." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. We didn't sleep. We talked until the sun came up, and she told me everything. About the marriage, about the darkness that followed, about clawing her way back to herself. She told me about the therapy sessions where she learned she'd been trying to be someone's idea of perfect instead of being herself. About the moment she realized she deserved better than someone who would rather fix her than understand her. And I told her how betrayed I felt, how seeing Daniel's face when he recognized her had shattered something in me, how I didn't know if I could trust my own judgment anymore if I'd been so wrong about her past. When my mom knocked on the door around 8 to ask if we wanted breakfast, Maya looked at me with a question in her eyes. "We'll be down in a few," I said. Daniel's car was still gone. Maya and I sat at the kitchen table with my parents, drinking coffee and eating the cinnamon rolls my mom had made. The easy Christmas magic was gone, replaced by something quieter, more real. "We're going to head out this afternoon. Cut the trip short." My mom nodded, understanding. "Drive safe." And Maya, sweetheart, she reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. "You're welcome here, whenever you're ready." Maya's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "Thank you." We drove back to the city in silence, the winter landscape blurring past the windows. Maya sat with her head against the glass, exhausted from crying and talking and the weight of everything we'd unburied. I still don't know if I made the right choice. It's been 3 weeks since Christmas, and Maya and I are still together, but everything feels different now. We're starting over in a way, getting to know each other again with all the secrets laid bare. Some days I look at her and feel the same flood of love I felt before. Other days I look at her and see a stranger. Daniel and I aren't speaking. I don't know when we will be. Maya goes to therapy twice a week now, and sometimes I go with her. We talk about trust, about honesty, about whether love is enough when the foundation has cracks in it. I don't have answers yet. Maybe I never will. But here's what I do know. People are complicated. They carry pasts that shape them in ways we can't always see. And sometimes loving someone means accepting that they came to you with scars, with mistakes, with a whole life that existed before you met. I don't know if Maya and I will make it.
I don't know if the trust we're trying to rebuild is strong enough to hold us, but I know I'm not ready to walk away from the person who makes me laugh until my stomach hurts, who challenges me to be better, who sees me completely and chooses to stay. Maybe that makes me a fool. Maybe that makes me someone who's willing to fight for something worth saving. I guess time will tell. Be honest, if you were in my place, would you still believe in love after something like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you'd do. And if this story hit you even a little, don't just scroll. Hit that like button and subscribe to True Side Stories. Every story here isn't just a story. It's someone's truth. Maybe even yours.